Morning, Cabinet Secretary. I want to go back, if I may, to what has triggered all of this, namely how an additional sum of £145.5 million given for the purpose of increasing teacher and wellness support assistant numbers was used or not by local authorities, because there's been a lot of muddying of the water being attempted over this, Cabinet Secretary. I think there are two things lost in all of this. One is I think we should acknowledge that there were 8 councils and the grant-aided sector did use the money for the purpose it was given and have increased their numbers, but clearly the majority of councils haven't. And I just want to explore with you what the government has ascertained in terms of how the monies were used at local authority level. I have knowledge of one council where, and I should say it's Angus Council, where the sums that were given were deployed to add 28 full-time equivalent teachers and 10 learning support assistants. However, their numbers have gone down by 27 overall, which gives the impression that they have clearly not replaced posts that already existed, temporary and permanent. But also an admission that it would appear £1 million of that money was allocated. A strategic proposal was made, they tell me, to deliver, to meet the costs of a saving that the council was making. So obviously not for that purpose. Can I ask, is that pretty typical of what the government has found most councils utilise the monies for?
We have and continue to receive reassurances from COSLA that it was spent on education and it was spent on issues surrounding education, particularly teacher numbers. But clearly, obviously, I'd be happy to if Mr Day would like to pass on a copy of that letter from Angus Council to let me see the detail. Looking forward, we are very keen to ensure that we have further monitoring place to actually ensure that we get from that money what we expect, which is at least maintaining teacher numbers and pupil support staff numbers over the year ahead. I
appreciate that, Cabinet Secretary, but it does appear pretty clear when one looks through the list of numbers for each council. The vast majority, so their teacher numbers go down. So it clearly wasn't used for the purpose for which it was given, in the majority of cases.
Well, the numbers overall went down by 92, and it does vary from local authority. And I would also say, again, in fairness to local authority colleagues, some of the numbers go down by very small amounts, and some of that may be for genuine recruitment and retention issues, particularly in rural remote areas or on specific subjects. So there is, I think, a real need for us to look very carefully at this and to work with local authorities and councils as we go through this process to ensure that we are cognisant of some of the challenges that they may face in particular areas.
One of the things that specifically we mentioned multiple times has been a lack of documentation to follow a young person that explains their needs, what they require, what it is they react badly to, and that at whatever stage of transitions they're going through, they have to keep telling this story over and over again. I just want to explore this thing about documentation, because I'm aware of what's called a communication passport that's been developed by mycompass.com. It's actually in operation in at least one school in my area, and I know the Deputy First Minister, John Swinney, has championed this particular document. I'm just wondering if you're aware of that document. I have a copy of it here as it pertains to a young constituent of mine, and whether it's something that you feel would be worth exploring for a sort of nationwide rollout.
I am aware of your constituents. I believe she had a petition on this piece of work on that. But actually, there's quite a few passports out there. I think the one that your constituent is involved with is excellent. So is the PAMIS one as well. So I think we need to look at actually people are having a bit of a choice here about the one that will work for them as well. But actually, how informed is it, and how practical and worthy is it when you move from one transition to the other, and whether it makes that whole process seamless or easier.
If I can follow up on that, Convener, I mean, are we talking all of these being a living document that the young person and the parents, carers can input to as time goes on? And also, to what extent would you be prepared to require bodies to take account of the content?
What is my communications passport scheme? Scottish Government funded the development of that for it to be available Education Scotland's resource hub. So it's there for anybody to have a look at. What it does do is it aligns with the additional support for learning duties. So it places those duties for individualised support into that plan, and that gives you the equality duty minimum where people should have those supports in place. It also sits in the context of the learning and support plans and coordinated support plans, individualised education programmes and child plans. So just within that, you've got all of those plans, and it brings much of that together. But those duties underpin all of that. And I think we don't have a huge amount of information about how widely the passport model is used, and I think that's a piece of work that will come out of the Pathfinder about how we use the passport model.